castle in Glencoe, but there is a very, very tragic story that goes along with this place, so please bear that in mind as you're appreciating the beautiful scenery. Is anyone a bit cold? Anyone just a little bit chilly? It's June. You want to squeeze in there for a good grief, right? 1603, pivotal date. The King of Scotland, James VI, becomes the King of England. His name is James 6.1, as we have already covered, okay? He was just the latest of a very, very long line of Stuart kings. After James VI and first came another Stuart king, Charles I. He was king of both Scotland and England. After him, there was a little gap. Then there was another Stuart king, Charles II. After him, there was yet another Stuart king, James VII and second. 7th of Scotland, 2nd of England, 7.2. Okay, easy. The thing that you have to know about all of these Stuart kings is that pretty much all of them, almost all of them, are Catholic. Okay? And by the time that James 7.2 was sitting on the throne at the end of the 17th century, the Reformation was well underway. All of the main institutions of Britain, the governments, parliaments, the military, and of course centrally the church, had all changed from being Catholic institutions to being Protestant institutions. When James 7.2 began to try and force his religion, his Catholicism, upon a newly Protestant parliament, the parliament didn't like it. In the year 1688, James 7.2 was deposed from the throne. He was chucked off, and in his place was invited a new king, a king who had links to the throne of Britain, but nonetheless was Protestant. He goes the camera. Alright. Here to help. A guy called William of Orange was put onto the throne of Britain in the year 1688. He was as Protestant as the day was long. And that was the end of the Stuart dynasty of Scotland and England. The Reformation had spread all the way through England and southern Scotland. I generalise, of course, when I say that all of these places had now turned into Protestant places. But up here in the Highlands, the remote Highlands, the rugged Highlands, the Highlands full of these lawless clans, ideas took a very long time to travel up here. Catholicism was still the mainstay of society up here. The clans were all still Catholic, not only because the Stuarts had their origins in the Highlands clan system, but also because it was in the interests of the clans to have a Catholic king. The year after James 7.2 was deposed, the clans rose up in rebellion to try and get the Jameses, the Stuarts, back onto the throne. These guys were known as Jacobites, Latinised simply, supporter of James. The Jacobites rebelled first in 1689. Despite some good victories, eventually the government's forces put them down. The new king, William of Orange, was aware, painfully aware, that there was a huge section of his country up in the Scottish north that was not loyal to him. They wanted the old kings back. And so he came up with a plan. He set a deadline for midnight on the 31st of December 1691, when every single clan chief would have to sign an oath of allegiance to him. One or two clans did so readily. The vast majority, however, were still very loyal to the old kings, the Stuarts, the Jameses. And so the vast majority of clans only signed when they had the express permission of the old James 7.2. Just go ahead, sign it for the time being. We'll rebel again when we're stronger. One of the clans that was most staunchly pro-James was the clan that lived here in Glencoe, a clan called the MacDonalds of Glencoe. Their chief, Macían MacDonald, was going to be sending a sign to the new king. He was going to be the very last person to sign the oath of allegiance. And so approaching midnight on the 31st of December 1691, he approached the place that he had been told to go, Inverlochy Castle, banging on the doors. I am here to sign the oath of allegiance to the foreign king, William of Orange. Just minutes away from the deadline, imagine the fear that must have took him when he was told that he was at the wrong castle. He should have in fact been at Inverlochy Castle, which was 4 days' march away from where he was. As quickly as he could, he made it to Inverlochy. He signed the documents. He was told by the garrison commander there that the spirit of the oath still remained intact. He could go back to his place without fear of repercussion. And so halfway through January he returned here. He said to his clan everything was all right. Even when, on the 1st of February 1692, a consignment of government soldiers arrived here, when they said that they were here for peaceful purposes, to collect taxes, just to make sure that everything was going down well in William's new domain, then they were accepted into this place. This is June, and you guys are finding it cold. Try and imagine what it's like in February. The snow is a metre thick on the ground. Winds hurtle down here at 80, 90 miles per hour. It's not too nice, right? In the Highlands, in Gaelic, strictly Gaelic tradition, there is a custom called the custom of Highland hospitality. Someone comes into your glen, particularly in winter. I don't know why I just looked right into the camera there.
Yeah, you look lovely.
Particularly in winter, particularly when people would die if they were left outside. It is incumbent upon you to make sure that people don't die in your territory. As long as they are not at war with you, as long as they don't want to come in and kill you, you put them up, you give them the right of Highland hospitality, you feed them, you shelter them, you give them water, make sure that they're alright. These British soldiers came into Glencoe. The MacDonalds did as their custom dictated. They put them up, even though they didn't like them. They put them up in their homes for 13 days and 13 nights, giving them food and water and shelter. However, in the pitch black morning of the 14th of February 1692, these government soldiers began to carry out the orders which had been sanctioned by William of Orange. Screams rang out, reverberated round Glencoe, as in that morning these British government soldiers began to massacre as many MacDonalds as they could do. Around about 30 MacDonalds were killed in the valley, lower down there, but wearing only what they'd been wearing in bed. In the panic, in the pandemonium, people fled from their beds, running up into the hills, and many, almost 100 Jacobites, MacDonald soldiers, MacDonald clansmen, women and children as well, died in the hills around us. The massacre of Glencoe, one of the most treacherous events in Scottish history. These soldiers, they were British government soldiers fighting for William of Orange, but they weren't English. They weren't even Lowland Scots. These soldiers belonged to one of the few treacherous clans who decided to willingly sign the oath to William of Orange. Members of Clan Campbell came into Glencoe fighting for the British government, quite aware that they would be offered Highland hospitality, quite aware that they could gain the trust of the people who were living here before carrying out their orders to massacre them on the 14th day. Just a little bit sad, huh? Scottish history is filled with stories of people betraying people, people handing people over to the enemy. This is widely regarded to be the most treacherous act in Scottish history, the massacre of Glencoe, when members of one Highland clan came in here and murdered those of another, just because some foreign king, a king who had just been arbitrarily put on the throne, had told them to. No one likes the Campbells. The Campbells managed to step on quite a few toes on their way to become a relatively prominent clan in Scotland. This was just one example. Do I have any Campbells here? I do hope not. Anyway, disperse, guys. What did I say? 10, 11...